Did you give them my details?
Because you've given me your details.
Right, that's against the law. It's a breach of my personal data. You should not have done that. You have not. You should not have done that.
This episode is brought to us by Auditor Brett Chamberlain. Be sure to check the link below, subscribe to his channel, and give him the credit he deserves. In this episode, Brett brings us another explosive coin audit. After filling up at a Sainsbury's petrol station, he attempts to pay using pure silver Royal Mint coins, but staff refuse to accept them, call the police, and even tosses money around. When an officer arrives, she appears completely out of her depth, misunderstanding the law and handling the situation so poorly that Brett is ultimately forced to contact his solicitor. The officer's conduct was so concerning that even her own inspector later acknowledged she would require further training. Before we get into today's video, I got to give a massive shout out to T for joining RTA Extra. In today's world, where our freedoms are constantly challenged and authority continues to push its limits, it's vital that we stand together. By joining RTA Extra, you're not just unlocking exclusive bonus content. You're directly supporting this mission and helping me continue fighting to ensure the public's voice is heard. If you'd like to support the channel as well, hit that join button below. Your support is greatly appreciated. Now, let's get into the video.
With the coins as tender, obviously it is legal tender, you are correct, but as Sainsbury's we aren't obliged to take that because we are unable to bank that here, so unfortunately we will have to ask for some other means of payment to purchase that fuel.
What do you think legal tender actually means?
Pardon?
What do you think legal tender means?
I'm not into a debate about that. We're not accepting that as a tender here. It's a private company.
So you accept it as legal tender?
Yeah, but we can't bank that here. We don't have the means to bank it, so we don't accept it.
That's not my problem if you can't bank it, is it?
Well, yeah, but we don't accept it.
Well, you already have.
No, we haven't. You just put it down.
No, I gave it to the lady and she put it in her hand.
So, have you got any other means of payment?
That is my means of payment.
So, have you not got any other means?
But that is my means of payment.
Well, and we can't accept that means.
Yes, businesses can refuse Royal Mint coins if that policy is made clear before a transaction takes place. But this wasn't that situation. The fuel was already in the vehicle. The goods had been consumed, and that created a debt. Once a debt exists, legal tender comes into play. You can't physically receive lawful payment and then pretend it doesn't count simply because it's inconvenient to process. This is exactly where Sainsbury's, and later the attending police officer, got it wrong. They confused what was convenient for them with what was lawful.
Have you got another means of payment, or do we just need to process it as a civil recovery issue?
Well, I've paid.
Well, you haven't. We haven't accepted it.
You don't need to. Well, you have accepted it.
We haven't.
Well, I haven't got the money, have I? You've got the money.
Well, we can give it back to you.
Well, I don't want it back. Are you a police officer?
Yes.
Right, can you identify yourself, please? What number are you?
1866, Bridgewater Police Station.
Mrs. Bradshaw, Miss Bradshaw.
That's correct. Miss.
Hi, Miss.
Hi.
Right.
So they've asked for another form of payment because they can't accept this form. Have you got another form of payment on you?
That is my payment.
Right, okay, but that's not tender that they can accept.
Yes, it is.
They're asking for another form of
Yes, it
payment.
is. Let me explain something to you. So when you was training to be a police officer at the beginning, you swore an oath, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what the first sentence of the oath was? It was to serve the Queen faithfully.
Correct.
Right. Now those coins are legal tender by royal proclamation of the Queen herself.
Okay.
Right. She's authorised within the legislation for the Royal Mint to create those coins, and when she proclaimed them to be legal tender, she said that they are legal tender for payment throughout the United Kingdom.
When the officer arrives, she simply repeats what the Sainsbury staff have told her, as though company policy somehow overrides legislation. Brett cuts straight through confusion by reminding her of the oath she took when she became a police officer, to serve the crown faithfully. And that's the crucial point. These coins weren't just pieces of silver. They had been declared legal tender through royal proclamation under Section 2 of the Coinage Act 1971. It is a crown, through the Royal Mint, that determines what qualifies as legal tender within the United Kingdom. Brett wasn't offering an opinion. He was referring directly to the authority she had sworn to uphold. By linking her oath to the royal proclamation, Brett exposed just how flawed her position really was.
they've allowed me to take goods, and they've allowed me to take goods, and then pay after the event. When the fuel goes into my vehicle, it becomes my fuel, but then it becomes a debt. Okay, now the whole point of legal tender is that you can use it to pay a debt. As the Queen said, it's for payment throughout the United Kingdom. So they don't have to accept it, and if they was to give it back to me, it would negate the debt. Okay, it's not a police matter; it's a civil dispute. So really, you know, I mean, really, you should be telling them that it's a civil dispute.
I've just spoken to them and said about the document whereby you can come back and pay within 24 hours. They're saying that they don't want to accept the tender that you've given them. Is there an alternative method?
I'm not going to pay in any other way. I've already paid. Okay, and regarding that document, it's called a no means to pay document, isn't it? Right, I'm not filling out a no means to pay document when I have got the means to pay and I've paid. It's almost like an acceptance that I haven't got the means to pay when I have.
What the officer attempted to impose on Brett here was a no means to pay document. This is a form commonly used by fuel stations when someone genuinely has no method of payment available. For example, if you've forgotten your wallet, your card has been declined, or you simply have no money with you, you complete the form, acknowledge the debt, and agree to return later to settle it. But here's the problem. Brett did have a means of payment. He had legal tender in his hand, issued and backed by the Royal Mint. That fact alone removes the situation entirely from the no means to pay category. By attempting to force him to complete the form, the officer and Sainsbury's were effectively trying to rewrite reality, pretending a lawful payment had never been offered simply because they didn't want to accept it.
May I take your name, please?
No. Oh, yes you will, because I'm driving.
Sorry?
Yes you can, because I'm driving. Sorry. There you go. Although technically parked up on private land. I'll be going soon, as soon as I've finished dealing with it.
Is that the money?
No, I don't want that. If you give it back, then it goes to debt. Did you see that, officer? Officer?
Yes,
I've paid and she's thrown the money back in.
They've asked for another form of
No,
payment.
she's thrown the money back in.
Okay.
Do you understand? Can you explain to them that that negates the debt? You can't pay someone and then they just throw the money back at you.
Do you pay for it?
Do you want to remind them of that?
Yeah, so that's the details of the transactions there, okay?
Ma'am, can you show it to me? I've paid it though.
Yeah, but it's unacceptable tender.
Officer, you witnessed them give me the coins back, didn't you? And when I have paid, yeah?
I've witnessed them give you the coins back. I've also witnessed them say that it's unacceptable tender. They're not willing to accept it. Therefore, they've asked for another form of payment. You haven't provided it, so that's hence why they're giving you the form.
Well, I don't want that.
And the officer asked Brett for his name while he is sitting in his car. He is legally required to provide it, and here's why. The Road Traffic Act 1988 requires the driver of a motor vehicle on a road or public place to provide their name and address when requested by a constable in uniform. That obligation exists regardless of the circumstances surrounding the stop. So, in that moment, because Brett was behind the wheel, he was required to comply. But what happened next makes the situation even more questionable. Just moments later, a Sainsbury's employee conveniently appears with a no means to pay form already completed with Brett's details. Now remember, Brett never signed that form, never agreed to it, and had made it absolutely clear that he was attempting to pay with legal tender. So here's the real question. How did they obtain his details in the first place?
Can you give these coins back to her, or can you keep them as evidence?
I'm not giving the coins back.
Well, you do realise it negates the debt anyway.
They haven't accepted
Well, I don't want that either, and that's nothing to do with me. I would like a receipt though, please.
You've been
I can't give you a receipt. The transaction's still outstanding, I'm sorry.
Do they have to give me a receipt for VAT purposes?
You haven't paid
I have
because
paid.
they haven't accepted the tender.
I have paid. They had it in their hand. They threw it back in the car.
Okay, but they
you
haven't
witnessed they
accepted,
threw it
they
back
haven't
in.
accepted the tender, so therefore there isn't a
Well,
payment.
it's for, as I said to you earlier, the Queen said that
I
these...
understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and you've obviously done your research.
Yeah.
What they're saying is it's not acceptable form of tender. They're not accepting it, therefore the debt hasn't been paid.
But you're an officer of the law, aren't you? You're a sergeant or just a PC?
PC. Hence why they've given you this, because they want you to pay in another acceptable form of tender.
So what do you think, if they said that they didn't want to accept a £50 note and threw the £50 notes back in, yeah, and then gave me that, would you think that's reasonable?
Well, you
Or £20
have to offer
notes.
another form of payment.
Brett turns the entire argument on its head with a simple but devastating example. If someone offered a £50 note and the store threw it back before demanding a no means to pay form, would anyone consider that reasonable? The principle is exactly the same. Once legal tender is offered, the debt has effectively been addressed. Refusing to accept it isn't Brett's failure. It's theirs. Yet the officer still fails to grasp the point. Instead of recognizing the principle involved, she falls back on the same tired argument that Brett should simply provide another method of payment. But that's not law. That's compliance with a business preference. By siding with convenience over legality, she transformed what should have been a settled debt into a dispute treated as though it were criminal in nature. And that's precisely where her entire position fell apart.
So say I had 50s and £20 notes, okay, and I went in there to pay them, and they said, oh, sorry, we don't accept those, right? Yeah, but even though this is theoretical, yeah, we don't accept those, and I say, well, I've paid, and I've left the money on the counter, and they came and threw them back in the car, would you still be saying that it's up to me to pay in some other way?
But they just said that's an acceptable form of tender.
Yeah, but it's not down to them as to whether it's acceptable or not. It's down to the state.
They don't deem that acceptable.
It's down to the state. It's not for them to
right.
choose.
Well, they've served you with this. They haven't accepted payment.
I don't want that. That's nothing to do with me.
Right, okay. Well, you've seen it. She's shown you it.
Yep.
Okay?
I don't know what it is. I don't even know what it is. What is it? I haven't signed it here. What is it? No means to pay form or something like that? How did they get my details? Did you give them my details?
Because you've given me your details.
Right, that's against the law. It's a breach of my personal data. You should not have done that.
Paid.
You have not. You should not have done that.
You haven't paid.
You know that. You should not have done that.
You haven't paid.
As the officer holds up the no means to pay form, Brett immediately notices something astonishing. His name has already been written on it. He challenges her straight away. How did they get my details? Incredibly, she admits that she provided the information to the store, claiming it was acceptable because Brett had already given those details to her. That raises serious concerns regarding data protection and the handling of personal information. The officer obtained Brett's details under powers granted by the Road Traffic Act, powers specifically intended for road traffic matters. Passing that information to a private supermarket in what was essentially a civil dispute is highly questionable. Police officers have a duty to protect personal information, not distribute it to private businesses whenever it appears convenient. Yet instead of addressing this obvious concern, the officer continues repeating the same line, "You haven't paid." This represents a complete failure of duty. Using police powers in a manner that benefit a private corporation while disregarding Brett's rights is not merely unprofessional. It is deeply troubling conduct.
You've given them. I'll be lodging a complaint about this.
Okay,
You know you're going to be in trouble for that, don't you? No.
You're not.
You know that you're going to be in trouble for that, don't you? Because you're not allowed to give them my personal details. Breach of my data. Police giving private corporation my details. They threw the money back in the car. We'll be lodging a complaint with 101, I think, straight away.
In his update, Brett reveals how the complaint process unfolded, and the outcome is remarkable. The police responded by claiming the officer had done nothing wrong, effectively endorsing conduct that encouraged a private company to refuse legal tender, throw it back into a customer's vehicle, and rely upon police-obtained personal information gathered under the Road Traffic Act. That is not a case of nothing wrong. It is a clear example of the line between public authority and corporate convenience becoming blurred. It demonstrates how a single officer's misunderstanding of the law can be reinforced by a system that appears more interested in protecting itself than upholding legal principles. Brett hits the nail on the head when he explains how the situation became potentially fraudulent. By obtaining his personal details through police involvement, Sainsbury's could complete a no means to pay form that Brett never agreed to, effectively creating documentation without his consent. That's the real scandal here. The officer wasn't simply mistaken. She enabled a private corporation to benefit from police powers in order to cover its own error. In a separate response, Brett explains that although his solicitor confirmed he had a valid case, pursuing the matter through the courts would not have been financially worthwhile. Nevertheless, The consequences were still significant. Her own inspector admitted she would be retrained, which speaks volumes. It amounts to a quiet acknowledgement of the fault hidden behind administrative language. When an officer requires retraining following a single encounter, it demonstrates that the member of the public understood the law better than the officer enforcing it. What's truly remarkable about this encounter is how quickly a simple payment dispute became a public lesson in policing gone wrong. Brett wasn't aggressive, evasive, or breaking any law. He was exercising a right available to every citizen in this country, the right to attempt to settle a debt using official legal tender. Yet, what followed revealed exactly how unprepared some officers are when confronted by a member of the public who understands the law. From the outset, the Sainsbury staff had no authority to reject legal tender for an existing debt. But the situation escalated because a police officer, someone who should have known better, chose to side with corporation rather than the law. Instead of de-escalating the dispute, she reinforced a misunderstanding, repeating company policy as though it somehow overrode national legislation. It serves as a perfect example of how modern policing can sometimes prioritize convenience over justice. Meanwhile, Brett remained calm, composed, and exceptionally well-informed. Every time the officer or staff attempted to distort the facts, he responded with clear and accurate information. His example involving the 50-pound note exposed the absurdity of their reasoning. Once goods or services have been provided, refusing lawful payment is not simply a business decision. By the end of the encounter, the officer had exhausted any credible legal basis for her position, and her attempt to resolve the matter only made things worse when she shared Brett's personal information obtained under the Road Traffic Act. That action alone was enough to trigger a serious complaint. In the end, Brett walked away having achieved far more than simply defending himself. He educated thousands of viewers. His calm and intelligent approach transformed what could have been a minor civil disagreement into a masterclass on standing firm in the face of unlawful pressure. The message could not be clearer. Know your rights, stand your ground, and never allow someone with a badge or a company logo to convince you that the law bends to suit their convenience. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me continue my independent coverage. Also, don't forget to check out Brett Chamberlain. His channel is linked in the description. Show him some support. Thanks for watching.